Hello, greetings and merry meet. So, what does Gorianism, Goth, and Wicca have in common? I'll give you a second. Now, you might be screaming at the screen. It has nothing in common. Well, you would be wrong. It has one very annoying thing in common. The constant need to say, it's not about that! So this will be the topic of this video. Now, within all these three lifestyles, well, Wicca isn't a lifestyle, it's a religion, and some will say Gorianism is more of a philosophy than a lifestyle, but you get my point. Let's just call them lifestyles for now. There's a lot of people that completely loses any side vision. They just latch on to the most popular element of it and just forget that these things are about anything else. Now, within Wicca, it is spells. People forget that Wicca is a religion. It has a philosophy. It has a dogma. It has a spiritual belief, a culture, all of these things that make up a religion, and it has spells. But it is perfectly possible to be a Wiccan and not practice magic. You just do the religious rituals. But in Goth, it's fashion. Where people then, you completely forget that it's not about fashion. When I sit butt naked in the bathtub with none of these paraphernalia, I'm still Goth. They forget that it's about how you feel. It's a sense of aesthetics. It's a philosophy. It's ideal. It's a way to look at life. It's not just about the fashion. And within Gorianism, of course, it's about the slaves. But people forget it's not about the slaves. It's something that drives me crazy. It's when you have Gorians that sits and say, oh, we are so much better than BDSMers. We are superior. Because Gorian slavery is not about pain. That's the difference between us and BDSM. Point. Not getting it. No, that's not the difference. Yes, pain play is not a particularly Gorian activity to do. It's not part of the philosophy. It's not against the philosophy either. Yeah, this video is going to be sort of a rant. So, I think that the way I'm going to structure this is that I'm going to address this thing, all of these three, one at a time. And then basically have a little section at the end, ranting and screaming about how you need to look more into things. So let's start with Wicca. Wicca is a witchcraft religion. Yes, Garrett Gardner, who created Wicca, was definitely an occultist. He definitely practiced magic. He did it so passionately. It's definitely true that magic was a big part of his religious practice, as it was a big part of the various religions that inspired Wicca. And really, magic is also a big part of, for example, Christianity, where you do prayer and so on and so forth, which is, in fact, magic. However, it is not the central element, because you can be a witch and not be Wiccan. If the magic is the only thing that draws you, if the only thing you want to do is to be a witch and cast spells, you should not be a Wiccan. Because then you're not after a religion. You're after a magic system. That's completely okay. Excellent, go for it. but you're not a Wiccan. If you are going to claim to be Wiccan and sort of go around and speak as if you are Wiccan, excuse me, then you need to actually read up on what Wicca is about. As a religion, Wicca has a moral system, it has philosophy, it has dogma, it has an idea of how the world was created, how the world works, all of these different things. Now, while this religion is far less dogmatic than, for example, Christianity, it do have all of these things that are part of a religion. And if you are going to call yourself a Wiccan, you should actually then be religious. When you're just focusing on the spells, as is the most popular topic and the one topic that's discussed the most, then you're forgetting all the other elements that are more important to religious practice. Excuse me, allergies. So I think it's then a disservice to Wicca, it's a disrespect to not read more up on it, to basically understand that it's not just about the spells. If all you ever do is spells, you are not a Wiccan. Because it's not about that. Yes, spells is a part of Wicca. It's a witchcraft religion. But the philosophy, the dogma, the religious beliefs, the relationship with the gods, all of these things are more important than the spellcasting if you are a Wiccan. Now, like I said, you can be a witch and not a Wiccan and do whatever pleases you. But if you're going to claim to be a member of this religion, it is about more than magic. Now, of course, a part of this problem is this misunderstanding that a lot of people have, that they believe that Wicca is synonymous with witch. Witch, Wicca, and that's exactly the same thing. And while you can say, because it is, some researchers within language say that Wiccan, basically Wicca was the male form of basically the word that eventually became witch in the English language. So you can then say that, oh, but everybody is a Wiccan. Yeah, but the word has a special connotation. So just use witch if you're not into anything but the magic. Okay? Done with that? Then let's move on to goth. Then, of course, it is. Oh, it's all about the fashion, I could also say. It's all about the music. But with music, it at least has a bit more of the essence in it than just about the fashion. Here's the thing. If the only thing you do is that you dress in gothic fashion, then you are somebody who likes gothic fashion. And you don't need to be goth, but every now and again, that's what's in fashion, and you see skulls and spikes and all of these things that are associated with goth easily available in everyday stores, and people all around wear it. I don't immediately turn goth as soon as I put on a spike choker and have skulls in their ears. Then they are wearing gothic fashion or having a gothic element to their fashion, and so on and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some goths are assholes and then attack anybody who is not associated as goth for wearing these things. I think that's the biggest bullshit ever. Dress however you want. But you're not goth, you're not automatically goth. If my mother, who is the least goth person in the world, should happen to decide she likes a skull scarf and decide to wear gothic fashion one day, she won't immediately turn goth. Poof. Because goth is about more things. It's not about the fashion. I mean, I have people constantly tell me, no, you're not goth because you don't wear gothic makeup. Yeah. You haven't really got it, have you? Because here's the thing. When I have a friend, he considers himself to be goth, doesn't wear gothic clothing at all because he doesn't like the look of it. It has all of the other things. Goth is about a mindset. It's about a philosophy. It is about basically the contrast between light and darkness, in that by enjoying the aesthetics and ideals of darkness, you then celebrate light. It's about a wish for the world to be something more than this crude matter we see around us, about basically the everyday things. It's about the grandness, the dreams, the passion. It's about all of these things and a philosophy and ideals around it. And Gothic fashion is just a part of that. It is not the main goal. It is not the main focus. It is just a part of the whole. And you can easily be goth and not dress goth. You can, just like you can, yeah. And I can say it's a bit the same thing when it comes to music. And now I made a video about this because there's a lot of people that tend to say, oh, you are not goth unless you like every possible band from the 80s that were the typical goth bands. And I say, and that's bullshit. Because as far back as anybody knows, there have been people and groups and ideals that has focused around darker sensibilities. For example, the group that gathered around Lord Byron and basically enjoyed telling one another ghost stories and write dark poetry. They were definitely goths. It just didn't have a name for it. However, I would say that those that focus it much more on the music are a little bit more right than those who focus just on the fashion. Because the music do carry a lot of these ideals. It was the music that inspired the lifestyle. It's the music that inspired basically setting it into, even if it's just a very loose system of ideals, aesthetics, and concepts that eventually formed the Gothic lifestyle. So at least you should know about these bands because it's a very important part of the history of the lifestyle. Now, if you like them or not, I mean, some of these old 80s Gothic bands I like, some I do not. For example, I'm not a fan of Siouxsie and the Banshees. I just don't like their music. I do really like Type O Negative though, and Sisters of Mercy. There's a lot of these I like, but generally speaking, I am far more fond of symphonic metal. There's also a lot of other music styles I like, but I tend to like the dramatic. You can say that. And I had a discussion about this with somebody online yesterday, where basically, if you look at, for example, classical music, how much of that doesn't fit right into the whole concept of goth? With the various requiems, all of these different things that has that element of dreams, of dark sensibilities, of the dramatic. Even if the music is not called goth, doesn't mean it doesn't have the essence of it. Or opera. Have any of you that's criticizing that actually sat down, watched some opera? Yeah, you generally don't get more dark than that. So it's about the essence of it. It's not just about the fashion. That's just a part of the whole. So then we go into the Gorians. That sounded perverted. Well, we have to talk about the slaves. And clearly, slavery is one of the things that lead a lot of people, both free and slaves, to Gorianism. And to a certain degree, the ideas of dominance and submission, not just master and slave, but also free man and his companion, is an integral part of the Gorean philosophy. The ideals that we are not all equal and that the strong should dominate the weak, because that's what nature does. Because at the end of the day, Goreanism is a form of primitivism. And it has the ideals that the strong should claim their right and be strong. But yeah, it is not about the slaves. If the only reason why you are a Gorean is because you want to own slaves or be a slave, then you are a BDSMer. And I know a lot of people will be angry at me for saying that, but it is the simple truth. Basically, it's the one thing that separates Goreanism from BDSM is not, and I do repeat, not pain play. Because, first of all, there's a lot of BDSMers that do not do pain play. And secondly, you can have a Gorean doing pain play as much as they want. It's not about that. A lot of people just get hung up on one simple little tiny quote in the Gore books that says that, and I don't have it, so the quote isn't exact, but I'm paraphrasing here. A Gorean master, while strict, is seldom cruel. And they go this time, meaning that no, that says that you cannot be into pain play and be a Gorean. No, what it says is that on Gore, sadism as a desire isn't common. Having auburn hair is not common on Gore. That's why slaves that have auburn hair in the books sell for so much money. That doesn't mean that you can't be Gorean if you happen to have auburn hair. It's about what's common. It's basically said to calm down slave girls when basically saying, no, don't worry. The chance that you will meet outright sadism is very small. As long as you are obedient and do what you are told, generally speaking, you will be well cared for and you don't have to worry. That's what the quote's about. And also about the idea that in a society such as ours, where masculinity is generally stepped on, and men are demasculated, it is believed that sexual deviations such as sadism becomes more common as a way to compensate. If that theory is correct, then yes, there would be fewer people on Gore that are sadists. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with being a sadist. But anyway, I digress. The point is this. BDSM is just an umbrella term. It means sadism and masochism, dominance and submission, mastery and slavery, bondage and discipline. If your activity can fit into any of these 4 categories here, it's BDSM. Now clearly, Gorean slavery fit into quite a few of them. So if it's only for the slavery, if the slavery is put into complete focus, that's BDSM. Whatever not you do pain play or not, because it's not about that. There's a lot of BDSMers, like I said, that do not do pain play. However, the Gorean lifestyle isn't about slaves. It's about, like, in the old Roman society, you had slaves, but it wasn't a BDSM society because slavery wasn't the focus. Yes, slavery was an important part of society, But it wasn't the focus. The focus of the Gorean lifestyle is the philosophy. It's the ideals that the philosophy presents and living by those ideals. Those ideals is basically the most core basic belief is that you should always be true to yourself. It is this idea that it doesn't matter what society have told you for little lies, for comfort. You should always be true to yourself. Your strengths, your weaknesses, all of it. And if you're true to yourself, absolutely everything else in the lifestyle comes from that. For example, natural order comes from that, because if you are true to yourself, then a majority of women will be submissive and a majority of men will be dominant. This doesn't mean all women will be submissive, all men will be dominant, but the majority of them, if you're true to yourself. Living with honor, the first step to living in honor is basically being true to yourself and your own ideals, so that you in turn can be true to others. Basically, Goreanism is, if you're going to it's very simple, is if you take one part ancient Roman society, one part the ideals of Nietzsche, especially his early works, and one part urban primitivism, and you blend this well together, and you have Goreanism. Now, yes, within this concept you have slavery. It's a part of it. It is perfectly possible to be a Gorean and never want to be a slave or want to own a slave. It's not the focus. And you really should read up on these things. It's far more important to read up on these philosophies and also to study these philosophies where they arrive from other sources, because Norman didn't dig far up into his anus and pull this shit out. He's a philosophy professor. He has read Nietzsche. He has read relativism. He has read works on Bushido, ancient Norse culture, the Greek-Roman world, all of these things and quite a few others. They have these elements in them, and he's just blended and mixing them together until he got what he wanted. That's what he did. And reading about these philosophies, not just in the Gorean books, but everywhere else as well. Pick up a book by Nietzsche. So basically, what I want to scream to people when they go on these tirades is, all right, put the collar and the whip down. Go to the bookstore. Pick up a good book on Roman culture and one of the works of Nietzsche. You sit down and read that. And then perhaps read about how the Vikings organized their society, and read a bit of the works by Ayn Rand, and perhaps some of the political leaders within libertarianism, and read a few books on Bushido. Read all of these things and get the philosophy of all of that, and read the Gore books, study the philosophy. Then you can pick up the whip and the collar if you want to have slavery as part of the way you practice Goreanism. It is not automatically a part. Okie dokie, then I think we have addressed these three things separately, and I'm sure a lot of people will scream and shout. Yeah, to enjoy. So, since I've been rambling for quite some time now, let's just finish this up. Basically, when you are joining any philosophy, lifestyle, subculture, and so on and so forth, look at the whole picture. Don't just see one element of it that you like and then latch onto that and ignore everything else. I'm not saying that you have to adopt every part of any subculture you want to be a part of. That's not necessary. But you should understand as much about it as possible so you can make an informed choice about what elements are fitting for you or not. So that's a very important part. And basically, first of all, when you just focus on one part and not anything else, and then call yourself a full member of said subculture, you are sort of insulting that subculture because you are reducing it. Because then you are basically spreading false information about this is what it's about. This and only this is what it's about. And it doesn't work that way. Now, it's nothing wrong with saying this is all I like. I now have a couple of good friends who are basically saying we are not really Gorians. We are BDSMers, but we really like the way Gorian slavery works. And we like the slave positions and the names of things and all of that. So we want to practice, in our way we practice BDSM is very gore inspired. Enjoy. I have absolutely no problem with that. It's perfectly fine. What I have a problem with is when people do exactly that and then say, no, we are living the Gorian lifestyle. No, you're not. You're definitely not following the philosophy. But the same with Wiccans, for example, that says, no, I'm a Wiccan. I am a Wiccan. I only do spells, but nothing else. But I'm a Wiccan. The same goes for the same problems with goth, and I'm sure there's so many other subcultures. Basically, look at the whole. When you see something that intrigues you about a given subculture, read up on all of it. And then decide if it's just that part of it that you want to incorporate into your life. And that's completely fine if you do that. But then you're not basically a member of that subculture, then you are at the fringes of it and you just have taken some elements by it, and that's completely fine. But when you then present yourself as being a part of that subculture and only focusing on that one element, you are spreading misinformation, and that's irritating. So yeah, and also you're doing yourself a disservice, because generally speaking, very often if you like one element of something, you will like other elements. But if you lose your side vision completely and only focus on that one thing that immediately catch your attention and nothing else, you deprive yourself of those things that might really fascinate you, might really make your life better, but has nothing to do with that one thing that originally got your attention. So basically, to step out of one culture or religion or ideal that are all around you and step into a small subculture, it takes a lot of time and dedication and work, whatever it is, Wicca or Goth, Gorianism or something else, because you're leaving behind the averages for your society, what you, from the most of us, have learned our entire life, and you need to rebuild a base of knowledge. And let me try to explain this. If I were to explain the basic ideas for how to be a Norwegian, what's the essence, the philosophy of being a modern Norwegian? I would say that we are very liberal. We are generally tolerant but reserved. We value hard work very much, but we also have a very communistic, and I'm not thinking communism here, but basically we have a tendency to think about the community, but as in smaller units, which goes back to the time when we generally lived in smaller societies. So we value strength, and we value dedication and hard work, that we don't necessarily value this as only elements in themselves, because we also very much value kindness and supporting others. As one thing, though, I feel that are a negative trait is that we sort of are so far to the liberal right that we have started to sort of worship weakness in this idea that everybody is equal, to the point that it's more important to protect the weak than to bring out the strong, which is in itself very flawed, because if we hold back the strong to promote the weak, then we will no longer have the strong to carry the weak on their backs. So then it becomes a downward spiral instead of an upward spiral. There's of course a lot more to it, but I'm not going to be talking forever here. But generally I can tell you all of these things that are part of being a modern Norwegian. However, if I were to move to a completely different culture, let's say go to Saudi Arabia, I would have to learn a new culture, which is hard work, because I don't have all of these ways of thinking automatically instilled in me by how I've been raised my childhood. At the same time, when you go into a subculture, you need to learn about it, because these things doesn't necessarily come automatically. You need to, when you leave your old culture in a way and step into a subculture or another religion or another way of looking at things, you have to rebuild that base understanding within this new worldview. And that takes time and dedication. And then you need to focus on more than just that subculture's most popular element. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and blessed be.